This week, we're mixing things up and giving you a taste of our long-awaited Patreon debut. Grace and Christopher are releasing the pilot episode of their new bonus series, N.D.T.V, where they're info-dumping about their favorite neurodivergent television characters. First up, they're diving into Season 1 of New Girl and taking a look at the quirkiest characters of the bunch. They're discussing the most noticeable and noteworthy traits of Unmasked AuDHD Queen Jessica Day and Neurotic Autism Prince Schmidt. If you enjoy this episode and want more episodes of N.D.T.V, along with other exclusive content, you can subscribe to our Patreon over on patreon.com/weirdsofafeather.
Okay, what are we watching?
They said I had AD something. Can we have class outside?
I break for birds. I rock a lot of polka dots. I have touched glitter in the last 24 hours.
I'm not convinced I know how to read. I've just memorized a lot of words.
It's like, I have no memories, man. I can't remember a thing. I wake up, I'm like, ah!
Sometimes I'll start a sentence, and I don't even know where it's going. I just hope I find it along the way.
Ugh, you're the worst kind of autistic.
You can't even count.
What's on the note cards?
They're possible topics of conversation.
Whales, parades, electricity, and the rest are blank.
Yeah, well, I couldn't think of anything else.
I have no idea what I'm doing, but I know I'm doing it really, really well.
You think a depressed person could make this? No.
All right. Are we ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Do we dare?
Give it a shot.
Let's try it out.
No, we'll fix it in post.
Yeah, we will. Welcome to this
currently unnamed
TV
segment.
Yeah.
New
Patreon
content.
Yeah, bonus Patreon content.
There we go.
Episode 1 of our bonus Patreon content where we are discussing TV characters. I'm sure by the time we release this, we'll have a title for the show.
Hope so.
Here's hoping. I keep wanting to call it Talking TV, which is Jackie and Holden from Page 7 call it Talking TV. It's just like the perfect name.
It is.
That's my placeholder for now, but we will come up with our own name. But essentially, we wanted to start a podcast, since I'm always talking about it anyways, where we discuss our favorite TV characters, especially their neurodivergences that we notice, their traits and everything. Yeah, so thanks for listening.
Yeah. Welcome.
Yeah. Welcome to.
Yeah, welcome to
Neurodivergent Television, N.D.T.V.
It's going to sound so natural. Yeah. I'm your host, Grace Beret.
And on this one I get to say I'm your host, Christopher Wynn.
Yeah, you are.
Woo. Promotion.
Yay. Yeah, welcome to your first day. Don't mess it up.
All right.
So for our inaugural episode, we are talking New Girl.
Yep. We're still trying to flush it out a little bit, but I think we're going to be going, a couple episodes at a time and just kind of discussing the characters, what we think, and where we think they might lead. Yeah,
how they develop over time.
Mm-hmm.
We both kind of watched 4 episodes of season 1 for some reason. I feel like we should have watched the whole season, but
would have made more sense.
We're here. We watch 4 episodes, but maybe in the future we'll move like season by season.
I think that'd be a good idea.
But do we want to do all the seasons?
I mean,
how long do we want to focus on one show until we get bored and we feel like moving on?
Yeah, till the ADHD kicks in.
Yeah, you're right. It's our podcast. I don't know why I'm trying to create so much structure. We're going to talk about it until we don't feel like talking about it anymore, and then we'll move on to another show.
And also afterwards, feel free to send in messages, your thoughts, anything you're thinking about the characters, or if you want to hear more about like the more seasons.
Yeah, please give us your feedback. We're very open to feedback. We're trying to figure out what to do with this thing, and all we know is we like talking about TV. We like watching TV. We like talking about neurodivergence and neurodivergent characters. So that's kind of where this idea came about. And yeah, if you guys have any feedback or anything specifically you want us to talk about or any shows you want us to watch, this would be really fun to do with
Absolutely.
a show both of us have never seen before,
Yeah, I'm actually going to find this more difficult because I've already seen New Girl all the way through and trying to keep it down to, okay, the
just
parameters,
what we've seen.
Just these episodes.
Yep. Just these first 4 for some reason.
No. And it's always hard too, because usually season, the characters aren't fleshed out.
Yeah.
They don't really know who they are yet. And so it's interesting to see how they develop and sometimes how quickly too.
Yeah. And also a lot of shows eventually, like over time, I feel like they make caricatures out of their characters.
Yeah, absolutely.
And sometimes that can be fun. Sometimes it can be annoying. Like I hate when they make a character so stupid over time where it's just like unbelievable. It's just kind of like annoying and insulting. I like when they become wacky, like Winston. Like I really like Winston's character development over the seasons. Genius.
Yes.
But I hate when they just kind of devolve into like, haha, this person's so stupid.
I mean, not to skip shows or anything like that, but Andy Dwyer, I feel like, is a decent, he's still entertaining. Unfortunately, after that, Chris Pratt's dead to me, but.
Yeah, fuck you, Chris Pratt.
But the character, Andy Dwyer, you can definitely see, like, he wasn't really smart in the beginning, but he just falls off the edge.
Yeah. They make him like ridiculously stupid.
Oh, yeah. Which always works in his favor for some reason.
Yeah.
It's like, that's not how it well, sometimes that's how it happens.
Chris Pratt, you bastard. All right. But for now, let's get into it. Because I feel like, especially in these first few episodes, we're mostly going to be talking about Jess, some Schmidt, some Nick, not a lot of Winston.
Not a lot of Winston, not a whole lot of Cece either.
Yeah, true. I forgot about Cece. I wasn't even taking notes on Cece.
Yeah.
Sorry, Cece.
Yeah. I mean, she's only in a kind of like a backup for Jess, and that's about it.
I know, and I can't figure her out. So I feel like she'll be an interesting one. Like, she doesn't really stand out to me as being particularly neurodivergent, but she is best friends with Jess. So
yeah,
there's got to be something going on there.
I don't know. I guess every great duo needs the straight man, right?
Yeah, I suppose.
I don't know about in their apartment, though, because none of them are, which makes it entertaining to watch.
Exactly, yeah. It's like, do we always need a straight man?
No.
No. Sometimes it's fun when everyone's wacky.
Yeah.
All right, so let's kick it off with episode 1. Episode 1 is where we see Jess moving in with the guys in the loft, and already from the first scene, we see Jessica exhibit some neurodivergence.
Right off the bat. I mean, it doesn't skip a beat.
Yeah, so what I suspect for Jess so far is AuDHD.
Mm-hmm.
She might have other stuff going on, like, I guess she does kind of seem like she has some anxiety, but once again, what's anxiety? What's just like residual AuDHD, But first scene, we see her in the car. She's going to surprise her boyfriend, Spencer. She's naked under the trench coat. She's talking on the phone with Cece, saying that she's going to go surprise him. She's talking about her sex character that she's created. And
because he has the fantasy of her being a stripper.
Right. And she insists that her character is stripping to put herself through college, right?
Yeah.
And she says, I wanted to create a 3-dimensional sex character. And that right there, I feel like, is autism.
Yeah. She's got to justify it and then build everything around it, which now thinking about it, I've done that when I've played characters.
With your sex characters?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, you got to give them a good backstory in order to
and
be
you need
believable.
a good trench coat, you can't just be sitting in the back of the cab willy-nilly.
Exactly. Yeah, she calls her sex character Rebecca Johnson,
and
which is so practical.
Yeah, and it evolves so quickly too. To what was the second one? Like Boobs Johnson,
Boobs Johnson,
Two Boobs Johnson.
Yeah.
And by the time she arrives at the for Spencer, it's Tiger Boobs.
Oh yeah, Tiger Boobs. Yep. So really big evolution there. One of the other first big traits I'm picking up on with Jess with the autism is that she is doing this like quote unquote sexy dance for Spencer in her trench coat with the plant. And she's totally oblivious to Spencer's body language, how nervous he seems. Like the audience can obviously tell Spencer's he didn't expect her to be there. He's like caught off guard. He's upset that she's there. He's obviously hiding something, but she is just totally oblivious to him being so awkward.
Yeah, no, she gets so into her character that she's just hyper focused on performing this thing that she's planned out in her head. Not well, but clumsily dancing her way through.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, she was so focused on the plan.
She's not even looking at him.
She's not noticing. Yeah, she's not picking up on what he's given out at all. And it turns out Spencer had another woman there and was cheating on her. And then she's like naked and turns around and the other woman's there and she's all embarrassed.
Yep.
It's like a painful scene to watch.
But I love how it cuts directly from that. Like I love quick cuts that have a humorous aspect straight back to her in the apartment with the guys because she's trying to interview to get the spot in the apartment.
Yeah.
And she lost herself in the story, turns around and goes, I'm sorry, what was the question again? And Nick goes, do you have any pets?
Yeah.
It's just like best introduction of a character though.
Yeah. So there's the ADHD. I feel like they do such a good job immediately of establishing Jess as, if you're aware of what these traits are, to us, I feel like it's pretty clear they're establishing her as AuDHD right out the gate.
Oh yeah.
The ADHD of just kind of going into this big long story that has nothing to do with this question because you have
so
to provide
naturally,
all
too.
of the information. Yeah.
Like, it's not like heavy-handed or laying it on thick. It is, but I mean, Jess's character in general is someone that has a very heavy, like, personality.
Yeah, she's a bit of a caricature, I would say.
Yeah.
Of these traits, which is fun to watch.
Absolutely. That's the reason we watched it multiple times.
Exactly. It's the reason it's one of my favorite shows. And this whole time I'm watching, I am always thinking about how Kristen does not see the resemblance between herself and Jess. And she said that to me before. She's like, I don't know why everyone says that. I don't see it. Every single time I rewatch New Girl, I'm like, how does she not see this? It's right there. Like, she is so Jessica Day.
To cross, I guess, show lines and everything, I could see a cross of Jessica Day and some
Leslie Knope.
Leslie Knope.
I knew
That's
it.
exactly what I was going to say.
I knew you were.
Yep.
And a little Ron, I would say. Kristen's got a bit of dad energy in there as well.
Big time.
Gruff man.
Don't hug me.
Yeah. We don't hug. Bury my cash in the yard.
Yeah, exactly.
Practical. She's practical,
yes.
like Ron.
Yes.
Yeah, she's definitely got Leslie energy, but also she definitely has Jessica Day energy. She's got that, kind of whimsical side to her. And I don't see it as an insult.
No.
I think it's lovely. I think she takes it as an insult.
Yeah, but it's the lightheartedness. I mean, she's always making up songs and singing stuff too. And, even the quirkiness of abbreviating everything.
Yep.
It's just something that is very Jessica Day as well.
Yes. Yeah, one of my other favorite scenes, I think it's from episode 1, is where she is singing to herself, "Who's that girl? It's Jess." I think it's Nick that says, "Do you just make up your own theme song?"
Yeah, that's right.
It's so funny. It's so Kristen. I don't care what she says. It's so Kristen.
Oh, yeah. I just love how nonchalant it is, though, that, like, she's there. And then, I mean, after that, she kind of slips in. It's funny. When I was reading the ad, I thought you were 3 ladies.
Yeah.
It's like,
because the word sun-soaked and beigey.
That's right.
Yeah, which was Schmidt.
Schmidt.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I feel like we don't see a ton of everyone else's traits in that first episode. Actually, is that when they go in episode 1? Do they go to pick up Jess's stuff from Spencer's house, or is that episode 2?
That's the second one.
Okay. Well, we can kind of talk about both because they're all blending together.
Yep.
For me, but.
It's all just one real long episode in my head anyway.
Same. Just let them play.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, because they go in episode 2 to get her stuff back. And that's when Winston is introduced.
Yeah, that's right. Because Coach is in episode 1.
And that's, Coach is there and then he is just gone.
Yeah.
And so Winston's there and even his backstory, I feel like, is neurodivergent. I don't know why. He's like semi-pro basketball player in Latvia.
Yeah.
And he just shows back up, and he doesn't display anything right off the bat.
Yeah, they don't really give a lot from Winston in the beginning. It's mostly Jess, I feel like. They're really establishing Jess as this quirky character in the first few episodes.
Yeah, definitely.
She, in episode 1, something else I have written down, and not that this is a diagnostic criteria, but she does have a lot of dorky interests, including Lord of the Rings. She makes a Smeagol reference.
Yes, a lot of Lord of the Rings, so much so that they had comment on it already early, like second episode or something like that, going to the bar, because I think in that one they were also trying to find her a rebound.
Yeah, I think that is episode 1, right?
Is that 1?
Yeah.
Okay.
Where they go to the party.
And she's already made, several Lord of the Rings references.
Yes. Yeah, and in that episode also, they're trying to get her to kind of have a rebound, just hook up with this guy, not dating to marry. And she freaks him out because she sends him like 7 long paragraphs of text, totally oblivious, once again, to the social rules of like guys who are just trying to bang aren't trying to read your long ass paragraphs.
Yeah, you're already jumping way ahead. And wasn't that even like before they even left the bar? Or something like that, or had they already?
I think it was before their first date. She had been texting him a ton, and he was like, "Whoa, I just wanted to hook up." So he like skips the date and just goes to the party and tries to ghost her.
That's right, because they're all going to a different party or something like that, and then he shows up there.
Yeah,
the date does, and so they all leave, which Schmidt is definitely not happy about. His character is all about, I just need to seem, I don't know, the sexiest, most masculine thing that you can think of, which is hilarious because so many of his traits are not traditionally masculine.
Yes, it does have a lot of feminine traits.
Beigey.
Yes, sun-soaked.
Sun-soaked.
But yeah, I think because, and we're going to get more into Schmidt's stuff, but I think because he did grow up fat, he does have a lot of complexes around his masculinity, how he is desired by women, how he is seen by other men. Like you see him with that fucking loser, what's his name? Benjamin. His friend Benjamin, who is such an asshole to Schmidt, and it's revealed that back when they were in college together, Benjamin would like bully Schmidt and make him do like the Tootsie Roll dance and haha, Schmidt is fat. And still to this day, even though Schmidt has lost a bunch of weight and is, you know, very, I would say, traditionally handsome, he is still so desperate for Benjamin's approval that he is still kind of,
he plays
cocking himself out to this man.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he is his own worst enemy, too, when it comes to trying to attract women or appear that way with men. The first time they meet, they're sitting on the couch and she makes the comment about beigey and sun-soaked. Yeah. And first thing he does is pull off his shirt. Yeah. And be like, you know, start flexing pretty much and try to prove how manly he is. Yeah. And it just comes off even more awkward and ridiculous.
Yes. Like, how would he think that is appropriate or like a good way to show your masculinity? It's just so silly.
It's just, I think playing off of what you said with growing up, like he was the fat kid everyone made fun of, but was like super sweet. It's like every chance he gets, he whips his shirt off because it's kind of proving to himself, like, look, that's not me anymore. Yeah. This is who I am, even though you're so not, and you're better for it.
Yes. And it also shows where his mind is at, where he thinks that women only value looks and that the reason he was rejected as a fat kid was only because he was fat. When really, it's other aspects of his personality as well, which feels mean to say, but like, it's not just that you were fat and now you're thin and now all these women are going to go crazy for you. Yeah. Popping your shirt off to show how muscular you are is inappropriate. It doesn't make women feel comfortable. It makes women feel like you're a tool.
You don't need to pop your tarp off, you know, to try to attract the ladies or anything. You were, at least emotionally way more attractive when you had all the weight.
Yeah.
Or taking down all that pizza.
Yeah, because he was like a sweet, fun-loving guy, you know, who wasn't judgmental. He just becomes, you can tell that he's really internalized all of the judgments people made about him, which you see a lot with people who were formerly fat and then they lose the weight, but they don't lose the weight out of a place of like positivity, and they start feeling better about themselves and they start taking better care of themselves. They lose it from a place of shame and fat phobia. Yeah. And so then they internalize that and they're like, well, the only way you can be accepted is if you give in to the fat phobia and lose all the weight, and then you'll be socially accepted.
Which is, he ends up repressing, like,
yeah.
But I think we're getting ahead of ourselves on that part.
Yeah, I think we are as well.
We're just jumping ahead a little bit, but he's also such a fascinating character because of all that background. I mean, they do a really good job of turning him into something that you would actually kind of like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
Like, you're that lovable asshole.
Yeah. And that's what I like about the show is they do such a good job of giving characters so much dimension, like so much backstory to show how they became what they became. Like we see, I think it's episode 2, where we see Schmidt when he's a kid, probably like 10 years old. He's at the dinner table. It's just him and his mom at this like long table. They're across from each other and he's in a bunny costume and he's like, Mom, look at me, Mom. I'm a bunny mom. Mom, look at me. Look at me. And she's just totally ignoring him. And you can so see how he became the adult he is today.
Yeah. Always looking for that attention, the approval, and just wanting to be like accepted by the people that he cares about, but doesn't like to express that emotion.
Yeah.
Because once again, he's got very, I'd say, fragile masculinity.
Yes. Yeah. His dad left him. So he was just raised by this mom who was pretty cold to him and uncaring. And so, he's got like mommy issues and daddy issues.
Yeah. He's got the abandonment issues, but also like wanting to build those relationships without understanding how to, which I think kind of also displays like the social cues and stuff like that for him as well, for the autistic traits.
Yes. Yeah. And so let's get into what we think is going on with Schmidt, because he's one of those tricky ones. He's one of those characters that when I first started learning about neurodivergence, I was like, oh, Schmidt is like so neurotypical. He's the most neurotypical. But like that extreme, whenever I say he's more neurotypical than anyone else, when we're talking about those extreme traits, that kind of tips into neurodivergence. He looks like he's so neurotypical because I think he's actually autistic and he's so rigid about his rules.
He's constantly masking as well.
Yes.
Everything he's doing is like masking, which
Yes.
also explains a lot of anxiety too. If he's been doing that, he's burnt out.
Yeah.
And he gotta be.
Yeah.
There's no way you can keep that up for that long without some kind of, and that comes later, I feel like. But
yeah, you're right. He does kind of unravel. Yeah, so I think he definitely is autistic. You and I are both like, I don't know if the ADHD,
I don't know about ADHD
is there, because he is so rigid and he is able to be so controlled with himself.
Yeah. I think it's just more of like an anxiety and trauma type response.
Yeah.
He's had to mask for so long that these rules now have just become his personality, he thinks.
Yep. Yeah, it's like he learned that, however correct or incorrect his rules are, he learned these are the rules that you must participate in order to be socially accepted. And then he really, really stands by those.
Leans into it.
Regardless of how,
heavy.
regardless of how people respond to them, like popping his shirt off. He just decided this is how you exhibit masculinity in front of people, is that you just show your physique.
Yep.
And even though women and men have these negative reactions to him, he doesn't care or pay attention to the reactions.
No.
He just cares about the rules that he has established for himself.
He doesn't pick up the social cues from any of the people around him for the most part. I mean,
he's very oblivious.
Talking to the characters in their loft, I mean, there's nothing. He doesn't pick up on it. He's got what is in his head.
Yep.
From the moment that Jess, I almost actually said just Zoe dishing out, but when Jess mentions that, oh, my best friend's a supermodel, and he immediately latches onto only that thing.
Yeah.
And is like, when can you move in?
Yeah.
Because it's just another chance to get that masculinity that he's striving to have and kind of practice his rules.
Yeah. Yeah. He very clearly cares a lot about being accepted by other men. And I think that also contributes to some of his toxicity where, he likes the idea of having models around because, wow, what a status to other men like Benjamin, where he can show off and say, I have these types of things that mean something about me.
And probably gives him a sense of possibly having more control. Because you got to remember, he also works in an office with nothing but women who constantly berate and I mean pretty much sexually shoot him down. Well, not just shoot him down, degrade him.
Yeah.
Constantly. And so it's just another kind of aspect that shows into the trauma and him trying to prove himself because he's the only male in that office and is constantly berated.
Yeah, and it's so interesting how he responds to those scenarios where he is kind of beaten down by these women.
So timid.
Yeah,
in the
he
office.
is. He kind of lets them push him around.
Plays it up when he's out anywhere else.
Yeah, you're right. Where he can actually feel like he has some control.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas I feel like a lot of other men would get be angry in that scenario or quit, not, just not be willing to work with a bunch of women where they're in power over him.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting the way that Schmidt specifically responds to that situation.
I guess it kind of makes sense though, because they are in a position above him at work. It could be very much the same relationship he had with his mom. I mean,
yeah, you're right. He's used to that dynamic.
And so that's why he almost reverts back to the childlike state of being timid and everything.
And he wants
that.
their approval.
Yeah, he's trying real hard to get everything done right, and they constantly just you're a piece of shit.
Yeah. And he gets so kind of butthurt by
oh,
it. But
man.
Yeah, but you're right. It's he expects that dynamic, and so he's not going to quit.
An authority female figure, I think he ends up usually folding in on his rules and his masculinity, or his perceived masculinity.
Yeah, working for their approval, that's never going to come. He doesn't see that. He won't acknowledge it. He won't accept it, that it's not going to happen. He just continues to work for it, just like he did with his mom. With mom, look at me, mom. They do
He's
such a good
golden
job.
retriever with heavy anxiety.
Yes, yeah. An anxious golden retriever.
Yeah, an anxious golden retriever that just needs that attention and approval.
Yes, yeah. From women and men, you know, it's interesting. So when it comes to Schmidt, I think he has autism. I think he has a lot of anxiety. I think he has fat kid trauma. And I don't mean that to sound mean. It's just a fact. Fat is just a descriptor. He grew up as a fat kid. Obviously, growing up fat in a fat-phobic society is going to have a lot of impact on your psyche.
Yeah, I think he's got various traumas that have created this character that he has made himself.
Yeah, and a lot of mommy and daddy issues.
Oh, yeah.
You and I were talking about the OCD. I mean, we don't see it a ton in these first 4 episodes, but it gets more established as we go on. But you and I are both like, is it OCD or is it the autism that has this need for control, you know?
Now that we're talking more about that and like the trauma and him just trying to have that control, everything, that's something else he can control is his home space, environment, how things are set up, his clothing. Those are all pretty much the only things he can control. And so it might just be that.
Yeah, I think it's just how a lot of autistic people can look like they're exhibiting these OCD type behaviors, but it's not like full blown OCD where it's like this clinical level. It's more so, you're right. He gets to finally have some control over these small things in his life, and he is very, very rigid about them.
Yeah.
Like you said, he's very highly masked, and I think that plays a lot into how his autism is portrayed. And I think that's something really important to keep in mind when we talk about autistic characters, because they obviously, if you've met one autistic person, you've met one autistic person. Like the traits can look so differently.
So different, yeah.
And part of it is because we're so fucking traumatized by living in society that it can come out in a million different ways. With Schmidt, he is so heavily masked, and you see a lot of his judgments coming from those places. Like he is very critical of Jess. He's very embarrassed by her traits that he deems socially inappropriate. He's always the first one to say, like, don't be yourself. Don't be weird. Don't embarrass me. And you can so see that he is so heavily masked himself, which a lot of us do this. The things that we have internalized as these are shameful traits, don't show them. We feel really embarrassed and annoyed by other people showing them because we've been told, no, you don't show that. You don't show that trait. You keep that hidden. And so then we can be very critical of other autistic people not being ashamed of that.
That hit a little too close to home on that
see
one.
The
that
wheels
holy
turning
shit. Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense because he's not really any different with Nick either.
He's so embarrassed by Nick.
Nick just does not give a shit. Though.
He's so critical of Nick.
Yeah.
And that's what it is, that Schmidt has internalized these rules and he sees Nick and Jess not following them. And he's like, what the hell, guys? Why aren't you following the social scripts?
Yeah. Which aren't even right.
No, they're not even correct.
If you're trying to fit it into like a neurotypical group or anything like that.
Yeah.
Dude, you're still not doing it right.
Yes, and that is autism.
It's
where we can be so rigid about certain things that we insist be done a certain way.
Yeah.
But even then, they're coming from our autistic point of view. That's
so
like,
they're still coming
wrong.
across as to everyone else. It's no.
Yeah, they're usually like extreme versions of people's behaviors.
But they did such a good job of doing that with Schmidt.
Yeah.
And I mean, I didn't even think about all of the extra layers that went into defining the character that he has kind of sculpted himself into being. And there's times when he does let down like the mask and isn't so guarded, and he's a completely different person. Yeah,
he's really lovable.
Yeah.
And like they say, once again, we're not going to be able to stop ourselves from referencing the future of the show. It's just going to happen. So get used to it.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, spoiler alert. We're going to spoil a lot of things. But
probably should have said that at the beginning.
Yeah. Someone says to him, maybe it's Cece, that he's a great guy when he's not trying to be a great guy.
And I was going to say when he's with Cece later, like he becomes a really genuine, like lovable character and
like
loving
soft
character.
He has a lot of love to give. Yeah, he's a very supportive friend to Nick to the point where it's like too much sometimes.
Oh, big time. And he does that for, I mean, later on for pretty much everyone that he has let into his small circle.
Yeah. You're right. He's guarded.
He's very guarded, but he's very protective.
Yes.
Like a golden retriever with things that, no, I'm just kidding. But yeah, he opens up and lets people in, and then he is just fiercely loyal to them.
Yes, fiercely. Yeah, he's very intense with his emotions, with his actions. He's just like a really intense dude.
Yeah.
Which, you know,
it's hilarious to see him like countered by Nick.
Yeah.
Who's been his friend since college, like when they're roommates, and he laid himself on thick then too, but Nick's just so easygoing. He's like, all right, cool, man.
Guess you're here
do
now.
Your thing.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm not going to judge you.
Yeah.
I'm going to do what I'm going to do.
Yeah, they're a good balance, I feel like.
Yeah.
I love their friendship.
Oh, me too. And I mean, their ridiculous, like over the top bromance is one of my favorites in TV shows that
Yeah.
are out there, and like
Especially because
sitcoms
it's so
and stuff.
one-sided.
Yeah.
And obviously Nick loves Schmidt in response, but Nick has a lot of his own issues, got a lot of attachment issues. He struggles with his own masculinity. He doesn't know how to reciprocate Schmidt's like intense love for him.
Well, think about even episode 1 with Nick. They talk about, he's been dumped too. Like, he's still having troubles. And he's like, oh, that was like 6 months ago. So why are you guys even talking about it?
Yeah.
And immediately, like, starts breaking down again.
Yeah. Yeah. Nick's got his own stuff. And I feel like next episode we'll talk more about Nick and Winston.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, even in those first couple of episodes, you do see some ADHD stuff from Nick at the very beginning. Like the big emotions is really the big one I wrote down with the whole Caroline breakup. You know, they show the scene where she's trying to break up with him and he plugs his ears. He's like, I'm not listening. So just trying to like totally ignore reality because he can't emotionally handle this breakup.
And even at the wedding, he ends up, we can talk about him more in the next episode. But for this one, I think the two, what's the best way to put this? The people whose characters are most boisterous, I would say Jess and Schmidt are very heavy on one side or the other.
Yes,
like,
definitely.
They have the extremes.
Yeah, they are the extremes. And the only other point I'm going to make about Schmidt in these first few episodes related to him masking so heavily, he says something to Jess. He says, no one wants to talk about their feelings, Jess. And that comes right after that scene of him at the dinner table in the bunny costume where he's like, Mom.
Oh, yeah.
And it's so interesting to see him say, no one wants to talk about their feelings, Jess. Because obviously he's internalized that from his own feelings as a child being ignored, where he's repeating this rule that he has internalized of people don't like it when you talk about your feelings. Your mom's going to ignore you at the dinner table. So like, why bother? Mom
ignores him. Friend ignores him.
Yep.
I mean, coworkers. Nick, even to a point, ignores the feelings, but that's just because Nick's just, I don't know.
He's just Nick.
He's just Nick. I mean,
but yeah, you're right. Schmidt like doubles down when people don't give him that attention and love that he's craving.
Yeah.
He like doubles down to he's used to working so hard for people's approval and love,
and still doesn't understand that isn't how you get it.
Yeah,
and if that's what you have to do, those aren't the people that you should be giving the attention to.
Exactly. Yeah. The people that you have to really like work super hard for their love and affection, maybe those aren't the best people to be around.
Yeah.
But yeah.
He's in toxic situations through his entire life.
Yeah. And you see that dynamic replicated over and over in all his relationships. It's so interesting. The show does such a good job with like character consistency.
Yeah. I definitely never did a deep dive into like his psyche and what built him until now. It just kind of clicked and made sense already.
Yep.
Because there's certain things that I understand from like the things that he's experienced and the work environment and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm just not even gonna think about it.
Yeah. I know Schmidt's, I feel like the most interesting one to kind of dive into because he does have all these different complexes, all these different masks that he wears, all these different rules.
It really is, he's like the tortured.
Yeah, he is.
Character.
I know.
But he does it to himself also at times.
I know. It's like you want to feel bad for him, but then he does so many jackass things. Like, stop it.
Well, I mean, they have the douchebag jar.
Yeah.
Or, that's what it was.
Douchebag jar, yeah.
And he had to put money into it several times in just the first episode.
Yeah.
So it's like obviously a running thing if they have to have an established jar for his hot takes.
And he doesn't even learn from it.
No.
He just is like, all right, this is my punishment. I deserve it.
Okay.
I pop my shirt off. Yeah,
yep.
here's $5.
All right, there you go. I'll toss it in there.
I'm going to continue doing that because he has the money to just pay
it. Yeah, one, he's got a good paying job, and two, he probably keeps cash on himself, knowing full well that he's just going to have to pay into the douchebag jar to do what he wants to do.
Yeah. Instead of just like changing his traits. It's so interesting that he is so heavily masked, but then in other ways, he refuses to mask.
Yeah.
Like he refuses to mask those things about himself.
No,
things that maybe he actually should stop doing, like popping your shirt off in front of random women you've just met. It's not appropriate.
Meant to. Yeah.
Yeah,
just
anyone.
Keep your shirt on, bud.
Yeah, keep your shirt on. No need to take that off. I want to just point out a couple other things about Jess, and then we can kind of wrap this episode down. And episode 2, we'll talk a bit more about Nick and Winston.
Yeah.
But a couple other things I noticed about Jess in these first few episodes of her AuDHD traits. There's that quote, I think it's episode 1, where she's flirting with the guy at the bar and he says, I like your glasses. And she says, they help me see.
Yeah.
It's so practical. That one reminded me of Kristen a lot. I'm like, that's such a Kristen response.
I love that line. Like, I was laughing pretty hard at that because it's something also that I found out that I do. And I have to try to catch myself. I feel like as I get older, my filter between my brain and my mouth is diminishing.
I get
and so
that.
I catch myself at work. I'll say something like some guy asked about what the bank cards or something about them. And I'm like, yeah, they're plastic. Or something like that to where one of my coworkers, slightly older lady, had to stop and turn and hide her face because she started cracking up, which is only going to make me do it more. I can't help it. Yeah, but those quick responses to where you're like, oh, I shouldn't have said that. Like, oh, fuck.
But I also feel like Jess is so pure that she's not even saying it to be a smartass.
No,
like she's not saying it to be funny. She's literally just giving the practical answer.
Yeah.
I wear them. I'm not wearing them to look cute. They help me see. That's why I have them.
And that's one of the things that I think also attributes to like the autistic nature of the social cues and like the responses you're giving. It's like, no, this is just what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
very, black and white, practical, functional.
Yeah. She's like, no.
Yeah.
Thanks. They help me see.
Yeah. And there's maybe it's episode 3 where she and Nick are in the store and Nick makes some your mother comment to her, like make some joke of like, oh yeah, your mother told me that. And she goes, what? Did my mother call? What did she say? Like, yeah, not understanding sarcasm or jokes or just taking it very literally.
Yeah, a lot. And that's a running thing too, is she just doesn't catch on to those subtleties, which I think are hilarious.
Yeah, I do too. And I think what's really amazing about Jess's character in these first few episodes is that while the guys are critical of her and they're, saying before the wedding, don't be yourself, blah, 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 they do a good job of showing Jess, like, for all her weirdness and awkwardness, she is an unmasked queen. And I respect that about Jess, where she says, there's nothing wrong with who I am.
Yeah.
I'm just a weirdo. Like, I just am weird. And I like being like that. And I love that they make her character like that.
Absolutely. No, and I like that unmasked queen.
Yeah.
Like that is absolutely what she is. She has no shame in who she is.
Yes.
Which is fantastic, to the point to where it even converts Winston into liking her. And then episode 2, because they're all showing up to defend her and putting on the funny hats and stuff. And Winston, who's kind of straight-laced at the start.
Where they show up at the dinner when she's by herself and they sing.
No.
Oh.
No, not that one. It's when they're getting all the stuff out of the house. Because they're helping her initially to get the TV.
Stuff up from Spencer. I
because
gotcha,
she broke the TV, and so they just want a new TV. But then you can tell she's growing on them.
Yeah, you're right.
And she has a funny hat on. I thought it was Winston.
No, you're right.
No.
That is Winston in that episode. I was thinking of a different scene. Yes. Yeah, I mean, she's just so likable. She's so herself. She's so authentic and vulnerable that, like, how could you not like her?
And how can you take advantage like Spencer does? Because she is so just believing and trusting.
Yes.
That's just her nature. And
autism,
so
once again.
Yeah.
Autism.
Having for the most part, very supportive parents and everything too.
Yeah. And I do think that kind of helped her character. I also love in that episode when they're picking her stuff up from Spencer's and she's trying to get her Miss Day's Jamboree t-shirt back from Spencer that he's wearing. They're trying to like convince him to give it to her. And Schmidt just goes into the step-by-step process of making jam. I'm like, autism.
That's right.
He goes like so far into like all the materials you need, the step-by-step of what it takes to make the jam. He's like listing off all the types of berries, maybe a boysenberry.
Girl made a lot of jam, Spence. You know how time-consuming that can be? You need a jar funnel, a canner, some fresh fruit, strawberries, raspberries, maybe a tayberry, maybe a ripe...
No more fruit, man.
Did he end up, doesn't he like slap him?
Yeah, I think he does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Schmidt happens.
Ah! What's in your hand?
Thumb ring, bitch! You got some Schmidt on your face.
So even right there, without building that relationship yet, he's already getting super defensive of someone that he's letting into his personal space in the loft. And like,
you're right. Yeah, he's like already feeling protective of her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also it's a sense of injustice that it's her shirt and he's wearing it.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, give it back. It's her shirt. Like, it doesn't belong to you. That's not right.
Yeah, you're right. Strong sense of injustice. Yeah, I hadn't even thought about that.
Yeah.
He does have a very strong reaction to injustice.
Yeah. Damn.
Yeah. And once again,
pop it out. But yeah.
Once again, with autism, it's not like you are the most moral person. It's like whatever your internal moral rules are, that's what you're going to be very rigid about.
Yeah.
So with Schmidt, he does have this strong moral compass and sense of injustice. Yeah.
Damn.
I know.
It's only like 4 episodes in, but like the building of the characters is fantastic.
I know. They do such a good job with it. And I do feel like they do a good job of showing also those traits of Jess of being gullible, easily taken advantage of. She struggles to advocate for herself with Spencer. She ends up giving his new girlfriend a ride to the fucking airport.
Oh my God, that's right.
It's like, Jess!
Yeah, she just,
she's
like,
too good.
You can just pick me up again on this day or something like that.
Yeah,
and
she's
it's
gonna
like,
pick
go
her
fuck
up.
yourself.
Yeah, exactly. But she has trouble, and you see her like really standing up strongly. And I see this in Kristen as well. She's really good at standing up for others that she cares about, not good at standing up for herself. Like you see her defending the guys in different scenarios, but when it comes to herself, she really kind of becomes like meek.
I mean, I guess in that way, her and Schmidt are alike. You see him at work and he is defenseless.
Yes.
Outside of that scenario and around people that he cares about, he is, I'm going to stand guard.
Yeah.
And I'm not afraid to tell you how wrong you are.
Yeah. Fiercely loyal.
I could see that for Kristen as well.
Yes. Yeah, that is Kristen. Yeah. All right. Well, I think that was a good first episode discussion.
Yeah. Breaking down strictly Jess and Schmidt, definitely not getting sidetracked and going into other characters or jumping ahead of the timeline.
Us? No.
No. Never.
We're very structured. We know what we're doing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. We've built this whole thing out and this is all purposeful. So
this is 100% scripted.
Yep. Yeah. That whole thing was scripted. That whole conversation, we wrote that whole thing out.
Took weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. It was worth it, I'd say, though.
Oh,
yeah.
100%.
Thank you guys for joining
Neurodivergent Television, N.D.T.V.
What if we just end up calling it that?
Seriously.
Yeah. If you want more of this, let us know. We're going to keep putting it out whether you do or not. So I guess keep paying for the Patreon if you want to keep hearing episodes.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Every bit of it goes straight back into the podcast, whether it's editing, hardware, the website we've got now.
Yeah.
Weirdsofeather.com.
Yeah.
We are still tweaking that and figuring out how to do that because it is just the 3 of us figuring it out as we go.
Yeah.
Lots
we're making
of
it work. Kinda.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can check out all our Weirds of a Feather stuff. You guys know where to find us. We will be back soon with episode 2. We're going to get more into Nick and Winston a little bit. I don't know if you want to watch along with us. New Girl's on Hulu, right? Just Hulu.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you've never seen the show before, which is crazy, but if you haven't, I would love it if you started watching the show so you could kind of follow along with the podcast.
Absolutely. And we may do something down the line where, we do a live thing where we'll watch an episode. You guys can, join in.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it goes with the Patreon, but we appreciate the support and hope you enjoy.
Yeah. And we'll be back whenever we're back next time.
Yep.
All right. How do we end this thing? Do we squawk out or do we come up with our own thing?
Insert exit music or phrase here.
Okay. Perfect.
Now go on. You heard me? Go on. Go on, scram. Go. I hate you. Go. Ah! Ah!
Boom. Done. All right. See ya.
There. Bye.
Thumb ring, bitch. I can do this all day. All day, son. All day. All day. All day. All day. What's up?